Hello everybody and welcome to That's Football. Manchester City are in trouble as a date for their 115 charges trial is set. And there'll be a lot of reaction around this in relation to when it's going to actually happen. Autumn 2024 will be apparently when this trial takes place. So a year away, and it probably won't be the summer of 2025 until we get a result, and then there could still be an appeal. But in my opinion, and looking at what's being reported, I don't think this is good for Man City. I think if you've got a problem, you want to get on with it and face up to it, because you can kick it down the road as much as you like, and you can, put it through appeal courts as much as you want. But clearly at some point, it's going to catch up with you. And when it does, all you're doing at the moment will be the integrity will disappear. I think this is a big problem for Manchester City, and I want to talk about why and get in the comments and give your thoughts as well, because there's a lot of people angry about this, saying, why does it keep getting kicked down the road? But I don't think it's going to help them. I don't think it's like ignoring a boil on your arse, isn't it? And not going to the doctor, and it keeps getting bigger. At some point, it's going to explode and it's going to be painful. The podcast is out today as well. Outrageous Manchester United versus Newcastle preview with a combined 11. I can't believe how many Newcastle players I put in that, but I think I'm right. Check it out on the podcast. Links in the video description, or just type in Goldbridge Saves Football. It's on Spotify, iTunes. Support the podcast. I know a lot of you enjoy it. It's out today with the Premier League preview and Goldbridge the game, which you can play along with as well. But back on track on this channel, we're talking about this Manchester City trial. And look, there's a lot of anger. This report in the Mail is saying that these 115 charges, which aren't going away, there will be a trial and it will be in a year's time. And I think that's the most important thing to figure out here. It ain't going away. There's no deal to be struck. Man City have, apparently made it very, very difficult for the investigators in this case. And Man City's stance appears to be, we haven't done anything and we're going to chuck a lot of money at defending that. Whereas you look at what Everton did, very, very different, but acknowledgement, slap on the wrist, 10 points. It's been dealt with quite quickly. Man City's a different animal. It's 115 charges, and that is a lot of charges. And obviously, to be charged, they feel that they have done something wrong. Man City's right is to defend that, innocent until proven guilty. But I think the big problem Man City have got here is, if I was a Man City fan, I would be concerned. I've seen Man City fans saying, well, we're just enjoying it while we can. If we end up in the Conference League, we'll still be there. But what they don't realise is, and I think deep down they do realise, is they sort of feed off the frustration of fans who go, it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace how they're getting away with it. It's a disgrace how they were charged with this nearly a year ago and they're still allowed to win trophies and win trebles. It's an absolute disgrace. And some Man City fans just seem to go, we're getting away with it. But I just refer you to Juventus and other clubs who got done for corruption. It won't mean anything. Everything you've done over the last few years will not mean anything. And you might think in your mind that you can go, well, it did mean anything. I remember those moments. But trust me, they won't. Nobody outside football will acknowledge it. And within your heart, you can pretend that it meant something, but it won't mean anything if this comes out in a year or two that basically you cheated. It will undermine everything that you've done. And I also think from a Manchester City point of view, there can be no denying that they're the best team in the world. There'd be no denying that Erling Haaland's the best striker in the world. There can be no denying that Pep Guardiola is the best manager in the world. There is an integrity to that. And if I was Manchester City, I just wouldn't like this. If I was the owner of Man City, I just would not like this. I would be like, we need to get away with this, or we need to get on with this. And if we're not going to get a result for maybe 2 years, and then there could be another appeal, this is just going to overshadow Man City for the next 5-10 years. And then you may well get your punishment on top of that. So I'd just say patience with this. I get it. I think people are very frustrated that there is this potential that Manchester City have done something really, really wrong. And every bit of their success is built on a platform of cheating, I suppose. But allegedly, we have to be fair about that. But also, I think for whom the bell tolls is Manchester City. And the way I read this is, Everton have had a 10-point deduction very, very quickly, and people will go, it's not fair that Everton, for much lesser charges, have had a 10-point deduction. But in some ways, Everton have took their medicine, they learn from it, they'll stay in the Premier League, and they move on. For Manchester City, the reason it's taking so long is because it's enormous. There's so much to it. the fact that this is going to go, a year away before it goes to trial just shows you the enormity of evidence that is going to be brought into the trial. It just shows you the enormity of money that Man City are going to put into this to try and defend it. And really, who knows which way it's going to go, but I don't think this looks good for Man City at all. I think if the Premier League didn't have a good case, they wouldn't be doing it at all. I think that if I was Manchester City, I don't know what they know, but they're almost look, the fact that they're pushing this, I don't know which way this is going to go, but I think you've got to say there's always a chance that they'll get away with it. A lot of people think they will, but the fact that it's going to go to a trial and it's so many charges and it's taking so long to set it up means the enormity if this goes wrong is huge for Manchester City. I mean, they're not going to be in the Premier League. Let's be honest. They will not be in the Premier League if they get found guilty of some of these things. And having that hanging over you, I think they're in trouble. They might get away with it, but I don't think they're acting like a club that thinks they're going to get away with it. And I don't think they can act like a club with any certainty that they're going to get away with it. I think it's going to be fascinating. And look, I agree. I want to know what you think in the comments. But my general thought on this at the moment, and I don't know what the case is, and I don't know how long it's going to be, and I don't know what the outcome's going to be. But my general thoughts are, yes, I think everybody would like to get this done quickly. I think Man City fans would like to get it done quickly, because if you're going to get relegated down to League One, get on with it and do it now, and then come back and start doing things properly. So I'd want, nobody wants to wait for their sentence. Unless you think you're going to get away with it, which is a possibility. But I think everybody just wants to get this done and dusted and move on from it. But the fact that it's not, I think they're in trouble. I really do. I really, really do. I think they're in big, big trouble. And I think it's just out of sight, out of mind. But it's not out of sight. It's not out of mind. The case is rumbling on. The trial will happen. It's not going away. I think some people think, because Everton have been dealt with, Manchester City's might get swept under the carpet, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're in big, big trouble at the moment, and whether they can get out of it or not, I don't know. But the big problem that Man City have got as well is they play fantastic football, but quite rightly, a lot of people just keep saying 115 charges, and the integrity of what they do is under scrutiny. So look, they are the best team in the league at the moment, but they have got that question mark next to them, and it's an enormous amount of charges, and it's an enormous trial that's going to take place. And if they get in trouble, if they get done, then they haven't worked with the Premier League. They've not admitted to anything. There's something called an early guilty plea, which I think is sort of what Everton have done, really, where they worked with the Premier League. Man City have not done that. Man City have not made this trial easy. Man City have not really cooperated, apparently. So if they get done, they're going to get really big sanctions put against them, because there's no admission, there's no working with the Premier League. And I think if they did that, then maybe they'd get a lesser charge. But I think in the long term, this could be really bad for Manchester City, and I think they're aware of that, and I think that's why they'll probably throw as much money as they can at this to try and find technicalities or ways out or prove that they're not guilty. But as I said, the fact that the Premier League have charged them with 115 things, that's because they believe they've done them. That's how the judicial system works. If the Crown Prosecution Service or the police or whoever charge somebody with an offence, it's because they believe they've got the evidence to prove in a court that they are guilty of that offence. That's what Man City are facing. So I would say, look, I get the frustration of football fans and Man City fans who want to get this done, but the enormity of what it is why it's going to take so long. And ultimately, if it takes 2 more years, in 2 more years, this will come to an end. And that's 2 years is a long time. And then you get your punishment, which might be 3 or 4 years before you get back in the Premier League. So this could be massively bad for Manchester City. We'll have to just wait and see. Get your comments in below. Let me know what your thoughts are on this whole process. Do you think they'll get away with it? Do you think they did it? Do you think they'll end up in the National League? I think it's very worrying for Manchester City. And can I just say, as a football fan, I just wish that we could move through these things very quickly. I would ask for an amnesty, because I think other clubs have done stuff as well. And I would just like to, have a clean slate and start again. But unfortunately, I just don't think that's going to happen. Let me tell you about the podcast. weekend preview. Outrageous combined 11 for Newcastle and Manchester United. Check it out on the podcast now. Goldbridge Saves Football. Links in the video description. Tomorrow afternoon, we've got a watch along, Arsenal against Wolves. And obviously, it's Man United, Newcastle at Newcastle on the United stand tomorrow night. And then Sunday, it's Man City against Spurs. So lots to keep you involved on the channel. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. And please check out the podcast. I'll speak to you on the next one. And get your comments in below.